All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. We have over 150 people here, so I think that's a good enough crowd to get going. Hi, everyone. My name is Gary Gerber. I'll be hosting the Q&A today, and Paul Higgins will be driving for us for documentation. So as we go through the questions, sometimes there might be something that we can refer to documents to, and we'll try and get that up on the screen to help point stuff out. And I don't have any announcements, but I think Angela had something about outages.
Yeah, CDE sent out a listserv message a bit ago that we are going to be offline tonight starting at 9 p.m. Expected to be back up online tomorrow morning at 7, and then off again 7 to 9 a.m. on Friday. They're doing some back-end work to get ready for the academic year rollover and some foster youth changes. I also have the latest flash, Gary, which I don't think you had a chance to read yet, where they are moving that ISAC deadline to October 7th. So that went out in a flash as well. And share my screen here. Let's see, the active and known issues should be up to date with items that went in yesterday. I think I have about 2 more to add to this. I'll know more later. The one I wanted to point out was 6306, the IDR 9 that we've been anxiously waiting for, still has some problems with it. So we are going to be reactivating that bug this afternoon and sending it back to development. So CSIS folks that are online, just continue to link to that existing bug, and we will update users again once all the kinks are ironed out. And then lastly, I wanted to share what I know are coming for fixes for the next release, which is next Tuesday. Not a whole lot because they are working on prepping the system for fall and the academic year rollover. So there will be probably a few more bugs. I would expect to see a few more bugs included for next Tuesday's release. But as of right now, it's just these 3 or these 4. I did log a new one today. I can see people are already asking about the concurrent enrollment. CCE anomalies missing from 22-23. Some are showing and some are missing. So we did log that this morning. That should be on that known issues that I just brought up here. It's probably the first or second item on the list. Here we are, 6360. So that is back in the queue as well. And that is all I had to share today, Gary.
Thanks, Angela. Martha, did you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm not sure if Paula or Brandy are on from CDE or not, so we may be flying CDE less today. But sometimes they join us a little bit later. So we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. Question number 1 from Susan. I'm a bit in the weeds here. I've used the match tool to find SSIDs, updated my SIS, exported the SENR file, and uploaded the SENR to the CALPADS. The SENRs show us posted. Is there a next step to find errors or misassigned SSIDs? Thanks for any guidance you can provide. I know we have a SSID matching tool video that can be helpful.
I think it's about the whole process, right? After you get the SSIDs, you got to go look for mids.
Right.
So you did all the right things to obtain the ID, put it back into your system. And now you got to maintain it. And part of maintaining the SSID is making sure it's doesn't have any CCEs and it doesn't have any mid anomalies associated to it. So that's the last step.
Question from Denise. How should we report the course section for the following situation? Elementary school mod or severe SPED students in various general ed homerooms for about 1.5 hours per day for the inclusion segment, ergo morning check-in and art and PE, but then spend the majority of the day with their SPED teacher in a separate classroom. If we report them under SPED class, how do we show the inclusive component? On the other hand, if we report under general ed homerooms, CalSAS exceptions may be triggered because the SPED teacher doesn't have the general ed credential. Brandy is not on. Anyone want to take a stab at this one?
Paula is there.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably she should just send in a ticket for that. Okay. I mean, I think it sounds like the main thing is the special day class, but if they kind of want to show that the kid is also in some mainstream classes. So Yeah, just send a ticket in more specifically, and Brandy could definitely help with that one.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Question 1, was the ISAC tool deadline extended to October 7th? And Angela mentioned there was a flash that talked about that. And Paul is was that
the most
latest?
recent
I don't think
flash I
that's-
see is
yeah, that's
238,
not the
which
latest
says
one.
the September 30th date still.
Yeah. So there's a 236 or 239 out. I haven't seen it yet.
Nor have I.
Yeah, it just came out, so it has been extended to October 7th for sure.
Okay, thanks. Jamie has all 3 of her questions. So we'll go over 1 first, and then we'll come back to 2 and 3. We currently have a student who is transgendered and has a preferred name, but it's not a legal name change. Are we required to put their preferred name in the system, or can we put it on the dashboard like a floating note in our SIS? I ask because we had issues in the past where Tom's takes the preferred name over the legal name, and that creates a lot of issues. So you can put the preferred name in CALPADS. There's a alias name if you want to use that to put in their legal name.
But I think that Tom's will take the preferred name and use it as the displayed name.
Question 1 from Laura. Can we send up the stats and discipline files monthly? I want to start sending up all types of files to stay on top of it prior to certification window. Yes, you can send up those, but the stats files seems like you'd want to wait till the end of the year because that's going to change.
There's a calculation, right? When you have an open end, we use a calculation to determine total days of enrollment or something.
Yeah, but discipline files can go up.
They're both full replacement though, so keep in mind that you'll have to come back and do it again at the end of the year.
Tammy, question 1. If a student takes a CTE pathway intro or concentrator with a teacher that is not a highly qualified CE teacher, but they take the capstone with a high quality CE teacher, does that student count as a completer? I think the student would count as a completer as long as you put in the SCTE pathway file for the year they complete and they take the capstone course with the high quality.
The high quality thing is just to determine funding or something, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have anything to do with counting for accountability purposes.
Question 1 from Angela. Any word on when the 22-23 CE anomalies will be visible again? I can't see any on the online maintenance anomalies management, and I know I have several of them. I've submitted a ticket on this, but I'm not sure if I've gotten lost in the shuffle, and there's the ticket number. And Angela mentioned that there's the defect.
Yeah, I found the ticket. Thank you for the number. I'm linking you to the bug, so you'll get an update when that's fixed, Angela.
Question 1 from Rebecca. Will the ISAC staff submission become something new that we will be responsible for doing every year going forward, or is this just a one-time deal for 21-22?
So this ISAC submission is specifically for PEBT, and PEBT only exists because there's a national health emergency because of COVID. So once that health emergency goes away, so will PEBT, and so will the need for this collection. The current deadline for the health emergency goes until the end of September. So we'll find out at the end of September whether or not it will continue into next year. If it does not, we still will need to do PEBT for the month of September, but that would be it. So we're kind of hoping it does go away.
Okay, I see a few more question 2s there. We'll come back to those. Question 1 from Stephanie. I have 2 LEAs telling me that CALPADS isn't syncing enrollment records like it normally does. Is this a known issue? It is causing the GER errors. Thank you. The GER 005 errors.
In your SIS, obtaining it, getting in your SIS and making sure you don't have any meds. So
when I hear syncing, it sounds like matching of SSIDs to me. And then if you would be getting GER 5s if you're assigning new SSIDs because yours didn't match. So, and if you can't identify the mids right now, it could be that.
Stephanie, we might want to ticket on that one so we could take a deeper look to see why you're getting those errors and we'll hopefully figure that out for you. Question 1 from Sean. When is it okay not to report an executive director of a charter school? I thought as of last year, all should have a COC for a SED and we report them, although they do not have a credential.
Any thoughts, Paula?
No, except that I think you are supposed to report them even if they don't have a seed.
Did we have that in a bulletin somewhere or in a flash that they had to report their executive directors?
No,
They're
so
kind
my-
of like the superintendent, right, of a district? The equivalent
Yeah.
or no? Okay.
No, I mean, it is kind of like, I mean, it's kind of like a school not having a principal or something. So, or yeah, a super, so I don't know if we've had, I thought we've had an FAQ on something like this, but I'm not sure. So we could, is it not okay to report?
So send us a ticket, Sean, so we can dig
all
some
should
more.
have one.
Okay, question one from Claudia. Someone mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the address is not used to determine if a student is a direct certification. What data is used to determine if the student is a direct certification? That comes from the Department of Social Services or Health
Yeah,
Services?
it's based on name and date of birth primarily. We used to use address, but the U.S. Department of Ag basically said we don't have to use the address. But we do use the address as like a second or third check when we do the Medi-Cal match, but it's not a primary matching for SNAP and TANF. Were you going to say something, Martha?
I was going to say that I thought we use it, but we also match without it too. So it was like,
Yeah, we don't
steps.
even, yeah, we do it. We only use it as a, like a third or fourth or whatever, but as long as you match on name and date of birth, that's primarily what's used.
Question one from Rebecca. Last week, I registered a new 9th grader, English only with an IEP, and who was adopted by a family in 2015. Looking through his cumulative file from the previous school, I found foster parents from 2014 and the child's previous name, which is in CALPADS. He has a different SSID number as an EL and no IEP. The previous SID is for kindergartner and 1st grade. The SSID I have is from 3rd through 9th grade. He was also an EL in kinder and 1st. What should I do? And he was never marked as foster youth. Thank you. Well, that's interesting.
I think we have to look at that carefully to give you guidance, Rebecca. I know in the past, Randy has said, you know, if they've been tested, that it's not an easy thing of just, you know, removing it, you know, so there's steps that we have to go through. So I think we have to look at the data ourselves to provide you better guidance. So if you could send in a ticket with the SSID.
And this, so this one looks like it's a mid that once they combine, then they're going to have both SELA type records, and then they could clean it up too. But yeah, we'll probably want to take a look at this one. From Elena, question: this school year, we opened a new virtual school in our district. It has a CDS code and everything. How can I make sure they are taking the right type of attendance in order to be in compliance? This is the first virtual school we've ever had. Do they take attendance as if students were in independent study? Sure.
Yes, yes. It's so yeah. In order to be in a virtual school and in order to claim apportionment, you have to have either seat-based attendance or independent study attendance. And if they're not seat-based, then they have to be reporting attendance to the principal apportionment data collection as independent study attendance.
Question one from Jerry. Hi, Gary. Hi, Jerry. I have a question regarding the 10.1 ERD Anomalies Report. We haven't been able to use this report since April, so I was curious when we can anticipate it will be available. In addition, are there any recommendations for resolving ERDs without the use of this report? Do we have a bug on the 10.1?
We have an internal bug. It was logged way back in April, right at launch. So it is in release 2, so October 7th.
But you can do ERDs online, right? In the anomaly screen?
Yes, so use the interface for now. So Jerry, that should be fixed. Looks like October 11th.
Okay, question from Angela Perkins. Question one, our elementary school sites are considering starting subject rotations for grade 5th and 6th so that they have one teacher that is their main teacher, but they go to another for their specific subject like math, science, etc. If our sites start that, are the main teachers still considered a self-contained classroom, or do we need to report the main teacher plus the subject with one of the departmentalized course codes? Thank you for your continued support.
So the answer to this question depends on whether or not the other teacher also has their own self-contained class, because this is a case called regrouping, in which case 2 teachers swap kids and teach specific subjects. And if that's the case, you don't have to report them as departmentalized courses. They can both be reported as self-contained courses. So if all you're doing is you've got each teacher has a group of kids and they're just swapping kids for specific subjects, you don't have to report that as departmentalized. You can still report both teachers as self-contained.
Question 1 from Carol. Is there any training specifically for principals and vice principals about discipline reporting? My district admins want to come to me for details on what should be reported, and I don't want that responsibility. I'd love to point them to some official training. Thanks. We have discipline training.
I don't think they want the CALPADS discipline training, because we just say, you know, we don't talk about the actual behavioral incidents and statutory ed codes and all of that good stuff. So somewhere, does the Department of Ed offer that at all, Brandy or Paula?
Unfortunately, no. But what I will say is that there are a couple of counties that do this in an exemplary manner. And I don't know if Rebecca Aguila's on, but she's one of them. So she might actually have a training for administrators, and she's always willing to sort of provide help and resources to other counties or districts that are looking for guidance. So Rebecca is great at that sort of stuff. So I would reach out to her and see if she's got anything.
And she's Fresno COE?
Yes, Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, yeah.
Question 1 from Ethan. I know you're all supporting ISEC, but do you know if ISEC submissions are now required for all LEAs, regardless of whether or not they participate in NSLP? Some COEs have been saying as much to their charters, but I haven't seen a direct communication from the CDE or ISEC.
Well, if if your school does not participate at all in a national school lunch or breakfast program, and if none of your students actually go to another school site to receive meals under those federal programs, then there is no need to submit through ISEC because the students aren't eligible. However, if your school has students who you do send to another school site that is participating, those kids are eligible, and in order to receive any benefits, they would have to submit data through the ISEC.
Question 1 from Nancy. What time did the flash go out extending the ISEC? It hasn't come into her email yet. And anyway, can you put a link to it in the chat, please?
Right, it went out about an hour ago, and sometimes it takes a while for our listserv to get out through everyone. And I don't think they probably haven't posted yet, but once it's posted,
it just arrived in my inbox. I'll try and get it out onto the
cool. Thank you.
the chat.
Thanks, Paul.
And Paula, one of the questions I got today was, and I think I forwarded it to you, was whether or not the operational data store data pull will be done on the same date if it's being postponed.
Right, and I responded to that email, and it's not. Yeah, I'm double checking with Thor basically because, because it's whether or not he pulls the address data separately from all the other data.
Got it.
Assuming he does do that, then it would be the 7th.
Okay, question 1 from Stephanie. We just learned that one of our tribal foster youth went to CWS care yesterday. Now that the student is in CWS care, there should be a file in CALPADS foster youth for the same student. Should we add a membership end date to the 193 program record? The social worker told us this is a new agency as well, but confirmed student will continue to have 2 social workers, and the tribe will continue to search for placement within the tribe. So technically she's in both foster care systems. Not sure how to handle this one.
I don't think, I mean, for the main place would be under 1.17. I think that it wouldn't matter there because it's an unduplicated count. So the student would still only be counted once, even if they were in the foster column and the tribal column.
But
So I think-
Paula, if they end date the tribal record and CWS doesn't get that record in time for the foster match, then they're not going to be included.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the timing issue, but from technically, since they are in both programs, it seems like you should be able to keep both of those things there.
I
Right.
agree.
And I don't think there's a problem from our standpoint because they would be unduplicated anyway.
So are we saying not to end date the tribal foster program record 193?
Correct, because they're still basically a tribal foster. They're still looking for a placement within that
Got it.
system.
Okay, question one from Kristen. I'm unable to change a student's enrollment start date for their current enrollment. Is this a known issue? It's actually how it is now. The enrollment start date is the operational key. So if you have the wrong date or you want to change the date, you basically have to add a new record with the date that you want, and then you delete the one that you don't want. There's a few steps involved in that. Let's see if I can think of it. So you would put in or do we have it documented?
I was just going to pull up the CFS.
So basically you can't add a new record if you have an open record. So you pretty much have to end date the record that you have, and then you can put in your new date, and then you can delete the record. If that's the only record, you can't delete it. So you have to add a new record. That's the quickest way, but sometimes there's other circumstances involved. So if you run into a problem, then put a ticket in and we can help you. But that's the quickest way, is just add a new record with the right date. But before you can add the new record, you have to end date the original record, if that makes sense. So hopefully that works for you. Okay, a lot of people are talking about the flash. Deborah Reynolds, question one. My school got a CalSAS exception vacancy on our college level classes. We sent over college courses with the college state codes, not in standard instructional level code of 2324, and a SED if all nines. We are being told that to fix this error, we need to submit the college class with an LAA of option 20, EC 4880, or option 21, EC 76004, option 20. Option 20 was retired by CalPADS on 6/30/20, so I assume LAA 21 is the only code I can use. Is this data correct? I'm not sure about the last half, but I did log a defect yesterday where the college courses with seeds of the 10-9s they don't show up. Even though they posted successfully in the CalPADS, they're not showing up in CalPADS, in the ODS, no matter where you look for them, under the student, under the courses, or in the reports. So that is an active defect right now, 6357, I believe. And the last part, I don't know anything about the ed code stuff.
So Brandy, did it make sense to you about the college courses and to now submit LAO of option 20 or 21? Or I guess because 20's been retired, local assignment option 21 when they're all nines?
Okay, I'll read it again. The first half of it, I pointed out that I logged an active defect for it, but the second part is talking about some ed code stuff. So basically, she has the CalSAS exception vacancy on the college level classes. They sent over college courses with college state codes, non-instructional level 23 or 24, and the SED was all nines. So that that's the defect. Those aren't showing up in CalPADS, even though they posted successfully. So she says, then we are being told that to fix this error, we need to submit the college class with an LAO of option 20 and an ed code, or option 21 with a different ed code. But then she goes on to say option 20 was retired June 30th of 2020. So she assumes LAO 21 is the only code to use.
Yeah, that's correct. But just to be clear, you're not submitting that LAO on prior year courses. What you're concerned about is what you're concerned about is fall 2 for this next year. You're right. Any college level courses, either 23 or 24, should go over with a local assignment option of 76004, which is code 21. But for this year, if you're getting exceptions on those teachers, your monitoring authorities need to review each of those predetermined vacancies and make a determination of LAO 76004. You have to do that. Otherwise, they end up as vacancies, which equal misassignments.
Fabiola asked in her question, I apologize if this was mentioned earlier. It wasn't. Will the 1.17 report be available on Census Day?
Maybe, maybe not. It has to be adjusted, the business rules, and we're not quite sure if it will be ready for us to share with you on October 5th, which is next week. It's like, I'm kind of thinking it's not going to be ready. But
Martha, it should be very shortly thereafter.
Yes,
right?
yes, soon thereafter, but it may not be there on October 5th.
Question 1 from Jasmine. I was investigating a CCE and discovered that another LEA combined 2 students who may have appeared as a mid anomaly for them. The students have different genders, birth dates, and grade levels, but the same last name. Both students are currently clearly shown in the demographics history. Is it possible for someone at CALPADS to work with the LEA who combined the students incorrectly to restore the student who is now the owner of my previous student's SSID? Neither student is currently enrolled by my LEA. There are at least 6 different LEAs involved, and it's very complicated to try and delete one student and restore all that historical data. Yeah, these are tough ones. If the SSIDs have been combined and one of the SSID numbers is retired, unfortunately, there's no way of getting that number back once it's been retired. It's basically just creating a new SSID for the student and then trying to restore as much of the historical data as possible. And it's very difficult, of course, as you mentioned here, when there's 6 different LEAs involved, how that's going to get done. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a better solution to this at some time, but it's a difficult task to do. Martha, I don't know if you have anything to add, but
there's nothing in the works at this point. And I think that's part of our message. Definitely people should come to training, and that you really have to do your due diligence and not, quickly start merging mids, that you really want to be confident that, they are alike, they're not alike, that type of thing, because it can cause a lot of havoc if it's not the right mid.
I know one of the first things that I do when I see these is I check the demographics files and I go down to the parents' names. And when the parents' names are different, then most of the times that. But I mean, I don't know, your guys' level with so many students, that might be kind of hard to do, but it's one way to definitely prevent merging something that shouldn't be merged. Avalis, question 1, is there a teacher vacancy? If there is a teacher vacancy and the classroom is being covered by a day-to-day substitute, who is reported as the teacher of record? Would that be the day-to-day sub in the classroom on Census Day?
Ultimately, it's a vacancy. Ultimately, it's a misassignment. It doesn't matter whose seed you put in.
But go for the one that was there on Census Day. That makes sense.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, got it.
Question 1 from Ray. Can we report out a lunch program 181, 182 for adult school students, or only adult school students receiving SPED services?
Only those that have active IEPs. So if there is a student that is not in grades K-12 and is not 3 to 21, they actually are not eligible for free and reduced price meals.
Question 1 from Joanne. When will the CCE report be fixed? It does not display the information correctly. So we do have active defects on that, and I think they're coming up, but not sure how soon. Question 1 from Larnie. We seem to be getting a lot of enrollment or assessment for SPED from students attending preschool. Can I get a clarification on the enrollment for students attending private schools and are requesting assessments for SPED services from the district? My understanding is when we got the parent's signature for assessment, we can send the enrollment to CALPADS and request an SSID. Will the SPED record going to be pending? What happens if the parent declines the offer of FAPE? Do we then exit the students as no-show and a new student SPED record will be sent up with the parent decline? If the parent accepts, we keep the enrollment open and a new SPED record will be sent up with either Ed Plan type of 100 or 200. And will the enrollment going to be And will the enrollment going to be under a private school with a 50 enrollment code or under the district with the enrollment code of 10 exempt from attendance?
Okay, Larnie, you get the prize for the longest question of the day. Oh, is that it? Okay. All right, so first of all, because these are preschool students, rule of thumb, preschool always get put on IEPs. Doesn't matter if they're going to private schools, doesn't matter. They get put on IEPs, which means that they need primary enrollments at the district level, okay? When the parent signs a consent for evaluation, that could equal the enrollment start date. Then once the student is evaluated, if the parent declines services, you need to send up the SPED record with a plan type 700, and then you can no-show the enrollment. If the student is going to be served, you leave the enrollment open until the end of the year. You send up the SPED record, but you also could, by the way, you send up the SPED record with the plan type 100, and you also could submit a no-show. A lot of people think that you have to keep it open, but because that student is not enrolled in your district, it causes other issues, right? Because they're actually attending a private preschool. So you can no-show the enrollment if the student's actually not attending your district and they're only receiving special education services. So I think that answers all of the questions.
Yeah, I think you got it all.
And in addition to what you said, Brandy, you're absolutely correct. CALPADS Flash 167 has that guidance for ages 3 to 5 that should be on an IEP. And then CALPADS Flash 161 would actually give you guidance for any parental consent obtained would actually be the start of enrolling or getting an SSID. So
two very good flashes to become familiar with, 167 and 161. Okay, question 1 from Chrissy. With the ISEC deadline being extended, will the date for addresses to be pulled from CALPADS also be extended? The current date to pull for PEBT is October 1st.
Assuming we can do so, we will do so, but I need to check with our technical person.
Question 1 from Margarita. For Edgenuity courses, the online facilitated courses, do teachers need to have the course credentials?
Okay, so if the course is a facilitated course, meaning the teacher is providing support to the student, then the teacher can be appropriately assigned if they hold a full credential based on a BA in student teaching, and they are on a local assignment option of Title 580005B. Okay, so they need to hold a full credential. And when I say full credential, that means anything but a CTE designated subjects credential and an adult ed credential. And they also need to be on a local assignment option of 80005B.
At the 323 timestamp, Rebecca Aguilera has put in her email address for the person that was asking about principals and vice principals and discipline data, for contact information for her. So thanks, Rebecca. Question 1 from Mary. Regarding errors due to suspension days in attendance and the number of suspension days in discipline having to match, should partial days of suspension count towards the number of days?
If partial suspension days do count towards the discipline submission, meaning if a student was cumulatively suspended for 1 full day, then they're counted as part of the dashboard. But you should always report partial suspensions in the discipline files. Now, as far as the STAS file, that's something a little bit different, because if the student was only absent part of the day, I don't believe that we allow decimal values in those fields. Do we? In the STAS? I can't remember.
We could look at the specifications. Paul's bringing those up on the screen right now. STAS.
So I don't know if that answers the question. All I know is that if you've got an out-of-school suspension day in the STAS, but you don't have an equivalent discipline record or incident record, then it'll trigger an error. But the reverse is not true, right? Because in the STAS, we're only collecting full days.
It does look like the format does accept
Decimal values.
decimal values as well.
But I don't think that we
Yeah.
have anything that's validating that they're matching in number of days and the number of days the discipline results landed, right? I think it's
Right.
just if the STAS has a count in the in-school or out-of-school suspension, then CALPADS is expecting an incident result with in-school or out-of-school suspension as well, but doesn't require, it's not validating that the numbers are matching and there's no dates involved.
Right. Thanks, Alex. Okay. Question from George. Is there any training available for the new Fall 1 submissions for the year 22-23? I think we have that on the burner and it should be coming out fairly soon. We were a little bit behind because of the end of year, but Martha, that's coming out pretty soon?
Yes, yes, it is. I'm prepping a draft announcement and we're hoping to start the advanced course next week and then data population soon thereafter. And so we'll be phasing in the training. However, if people want to learn about Fall 1 right now, there's no reason why you can't use our existing recordings on the YouTube channel because last year and this year are pretty similar as far as, you know, it's the same kind of data that we're collecting. We're changing the business rules on report 117. So, you know, you got to wait for that. But as far as data population goes, it's pretty much the same. We have a few code changes, but so that can tide you over until we start having the live trainings.
And Martha, the flash that describes the main changes for this fall and Fall 1 and Fall 2 should be coming out hopefully either Friday or Monday.
Awesome.
Cool. Hey, a lot of question twos. We're getting close to the end here. Hopefully we'll get past these Q1s and can get back to those Q2s quickly. From Carla, question 1, did I hear correctly? Beginning this year, 22-23, college courses that we report with the seed of all 9s and course non-standard instructional level 24 dual credit and 23 college credit must be reported with the LOA option 21?
They should be if you don't want them to end up in the predetermined vacancy bucket, because they will likely end up there. And then your monitoring authority has to review those and then they make that determination, right? So just to try and avoid it, populate those with 76004 because they're appropriately authorized to teach that college course based on that statute.
Question from Karina. You spoke on this earlier, but need clarification on which schools we need to submit the STAS data for ISAC. The flash stated all, regardless if the school is participating in an SLP and or SBP. Thank you.
I think that Paula gave that guidance. You as CALPADS coordinators may not know if you have certain kids, if you have a school that's not participating in an SLP, that school may have a partnership with another site where those kids that are eligible actually go and receive meals at that site. And so just to cover all your bases, submit them all.
Right. So I think I said earlier, if you're absolutely sure you have no kids who are going and receiving meals elsewhere, then you wouldn't need to.
At 3:39, Rebecca posted, this is a great resource for teacher of record questions. Great job, CSIS team. And there's a link there to some training on determining which teacher to report. Thanks, Rebecca. Ed says, observation on mids, when in doubt, different will bail you out. Thanks, Ed. Question 1 from Ann. We used the alternative application process for free and reduced for the first time this year by asking parents to fill out an income survey during data confirmation in ARIES. We would like to know if we can submit the free and reduced records that were created based on the answer to the income survey for Fall 1.
Yes, you can.
Okay, at 3:42, Paul posted the 2 flashes. At 3:42, also Margarita said, in order to avoid misassignments. And that was in regards to her question 1, online facilitated teachers.
Yeah, and I think I said that they need to have a full credential based on a BA in student teaching and a Title V 8005B local assignment option.
Okay, question from Miriam. The SELA extract pulls the most recent English only date rather than the first one if there is more than one EO date that was added by multiple schools. Generally, these multiple dates are over 5 years ago. Is it okay to load the most recent date in our SIS rather than the first one, even though that is more correct? Does it matter? I'm currently getting a lot of date mismatch errors.
That's
Yeah.
the SELA 283, right?
I mean, it should be okay to upload the most recent date. There's no harm in it.
Well, if they try to give it back to us, we may be matching it to the first one. So I think that's what we probably have to double check, the SELA 283. It's business logic. Because and I don't recall off the top of my head what the hierarchy is when there's all of the historical data. Which one do we look at?
My first inclination is to say that it should be looking at the most recent, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. You can send us a ticket and we'll dig into it, Miriam.
Question one from Danielle. How accurate are the numbers on the ODS version of the 1.17? I don't think we have any active defects on the 1.17. So they
should be accurate. That's one of the ODS reports that we do maintain.
Yep.
But we're changing the business rules. So I don't know if the current one has to have its business rules changed for this fall. I don't know what its calculation is. Is it based on last year's business rules? Because that's what's changing.
Yeah, if that hasn't been updated, then it is going to be different because we've got a whole nother group of kindergartners that would be eligible.
So off the top of our head, we do not know what the business rules are currently in the ODS of 117. So you can send us a ticket and we'll go look for it.
Question from Yen. Will the initial fall 1 deadline of 12/16/22 require both LEA and SELPA approval or just LEA approval? So the initial deadline of 12/16 only requires LEA approval. It's not till the final deadline that the SELPA approval would be required.
And we will put that in writing in a flash.
Thanks, Paula.
What was that, Martha?
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Oh.
We think alike.
Question one from Elsa. Regarding the MIDs, remember that there was a time in May when the MID modal was functioning incorrectly and showing the identical data for both SSIDs. Since then, I've had at least 4 SSIDs hijacked by other districts, one of which is a SPED student with tons of records. I'm upset that I will be responsible for rebuilding these records for my students when I did not combine the SSIDs. Some help from your end with this would be appreciated.
Don't know either. Maybe we bring it up in our CRIS issue. In the past, it's always been the new owner has to work through it. But I understand where you come from, Elsa. It wasn't you responsible for that, and yet you have to somehow clean it up. Right now, we don't have a good answer for you.
Leah has a question. In reference to the ODS question that was asked, I had a ticket in and was told the following regarding to the ODS reports. The ODS reports aren't maintained and repaired as the snapshot reports are. And that's correct. You can refer to the ODS for an estimate of your data, but the snapshot reports will be more accurate. That's true. You can also click on extracts and request an ODS extract as well. So the ODS extracts are actually data that's in CALPADS that you can pull out. Those would be accurate. Those aren't the same as ODS reports. But yeah, a lot of the ODS reports haven't been updated since we had this CALPADS redesign a few years ago. And the priority is on snapshot reports because those are the ones that are approved.
But I thought we made an effort, like on the high profile ones of 117, to get it closer to the ODS. The question is right now, though, because you guys like to see that National School Lunch data, the FRPM stuff throughout the year, that we were trying to keep the ODS 117 in line with the current business rules. I just don't know where we're at with the 117 business rules.
Right. Well, for sure, if we haven't finished the certification report, I doubt the ODS report is changed, and we probably need to double check to see if that's even
right, because my point was it may not have reflected last year. So if it was reflecting business rules from 2 years ago, it may be okay because we're reverting back to the business rules from 2 years ago, right? 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, the dates changed last year. We just had that one, language kind of thing that we're fixing this year. And it's going to include more kindergarten kids. But those are the main changes.
From Elizabeth, there is no way for us to recreate the SPED data if creating new records. So yes, Gary, there needs to be a way to unseparate, even though it will be messy. Okay, so more of a comment, I guess. All right, so I'm going to go back to do the question 2s and question 3s.
Brian's 358 comment there is, I think, relevant to the group.
Oh, I didn't even see that one, but it popped in right when I moved up the screen. Okay, so from Brian, or Cyrus, I'm sorry. Please emphasize to staff of SED systems, if they discover a student record had the wrong SSID, not retired, but just wrong, they cannot just fix it and forget about it. The implication is the SSID that they had in the system has been sent SPED records to CALPADS that must be removed, and the entire history of the SPED sent to the wrong SSID resent to the correct SSID. We can't just fix it locally and forget about it. Thanks, everyone. And that's from Brian. Thanks, Brian, for the comment.
Yeah, it's that maintenance of the SSID. Yeah.
Okay, so Jamie had a question too, up at 302. We found out a student might be dually enrolled with another school in UTHA and taking courses virtually. Can we still claim ADA if the dates overlap and we have workup samples and attendance logs?
Yeah, I mean, ADA is reported at the district level. So it's sort of transparent when two different LEAs are claiming ADA for the same student. And unfortunately, what this is going to look like in CALPADS is a concurrent enrollment anomaly. And in this case, it's a valid concurrent enrollment. Is it legal? No, but it is what it is. You claimed 88 and the other district did as well.
Okay, and she had a question 3. We have a student that was enrolled from us from August 16th to September 9th, but has an enrollment status of 50 with a private school group starting on August 18th. Can we still claim the student since the enrollment status is 50, or do we need to forfeit those days that overlap?
Very likely they create those. I can't say for sure. I would say send in a ticket so we can take a look at the records. But I know that there are instances where CALPADS might actually require 2 different enrollment statuses that may overlap, and that's just because the student is transitioning from private to public or vice versa, and they need both of those records to represent, to be able to submit up and adopt like an IEP or an ISP. So there are instances in which they can run concurrently. You would not get a concurrent enrollment anomaly. You should be able to claim ADA. Shouldn't be an issue. But if you want me to take a look at the record specifically, you can send it in a ticket and put mine or Joe Tan's name on it.
Thanks, Brandy. Question 2 from Angela at 303. Are there any updates on when age-related validations will be adjusted for the SENR 262 and SIMP 59, specifically for TK students younger than 4 at the time of their enrollment start date? A suggested workaround has been for LEAs to change the grade level to PS, but won't that exclude these students from the most CALPADS reports that only include KN through 12th graders?
Yeah, so I just ping them again, the policy, the program office, and I will continue to bug them, but they have not yet responded.
You have to okay us to lessen or reduce
to loosen the validation, right?
Yeah.
Question 2 from Laura. Can an elementary age student be suspended for a partial day? We take all day attendance and science aren't sure how to record the suspension attendance if it is for the second half of the day.
Yes, they can. It doesn't mean you can't claim ADA. It just means they were suspended for half day. And yes, that should be reported as a half day suspension in the incident files.
Question 2 from Rebecca. If a school implements a dual language immersion program, should the courses reflect the language other than English for the CRSC, CRSE files? If yes, would they submit 2 sections, one for the time they instruct in English and one for the other language?
Okay, so you have to be really, really careful about this. So if you have a dual immersion, let's say self-contained class, and one teacher is responsible for teaching in Spanish, and there's another teacher that teaches in English, and they both have self-contained classes. It is very important that you don't identify both of those courses there's a language of instruction. So it's really important that you only designate a language of instruction of, let's say, Spanish on the teacher that has the BCLAD, the bilingual authorization, okay? Because she's the one that is teaching in Spanish, even though she might be teaching in Spanish to the other classroom's kids. So really important. Also, the other thing that I think people aren't aware of is you are reporting language instruction programs for students, but we don't validate if you're saying they're in a dual immersion program. We're not looking at their courses and making sure that you've got a language other than English on those courses. I mean, you may think that, but we don't. So just make sure that if you identify a language of instruction that's other than English on a course, that teacher actually has a BCLAD. Because if she doesn't, it's going to generate an exception in CalSAS. I hope I answered the question.
I think you did.
Okay.
Question 2 at 325 from Ray. We have a student that has a concurrent enrollment, one being enrollment status 10 and the other being a secondary. Although they overlap, we should be okay, correct? That's correct. The 20 secondary would mean the student is taking some instruction at another institution. So that's fine. That's not a concurrent. It is concurrently enrolled, but it doesn't count as a CCE. Question 2 from Sean. Should departmental courses be used for teachers with a local assignment option if available, correct?
I'm assuming you're asking this because the teacher isn't appropriately assigned with that single subject authorization. I do know, Sean, that there are some local assignment options. Like, for example, if you have a teacher with a science credential that's teaching a math course, and there are local assignment options if that teacher actually can demonstrate subject matter competence in math. You put them on the local assignment option, and then they're appropriately assigned through a local assignment option. So yeah, there are local assignment options, but you should discuss that with your monitoring authority or your credentialing department to see which local assignment option is appropriate for that departmentalized subject.
Okay. Question 2 from Jerry. I double checked since the online maintenance version of the 10.1 ERD report was suggested, and it's empty for 22-23. I thought I noticed this yesterday, so I checked again today.
I think what we were saying is to just use the user interface and not the reports to look at your ERDs. Because Angela indicated that we wrote that up a long time ago, right? The 10.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that definitely is a problem.
Bug, yeah.
So your reports aren't working, but you can use the screen itself, Jerry. So go to online maintenance anomalies and concurrent enrollment anomalies. Although I wrote a related bug up today, I want to say 6360 is the number, where for some LEAs, the 2022-2023 CCEs are not displaying.
Question 2 from Claudia. Direct certification extended benefit. Is the benefit extended to all students living in the same house or only those with the same parents?
You should definitely check with your nutrition services division, but and also you can email the nutrition services division at the department, but I believe it is a family unit, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be same parents.
Question 2 from Nancy. Would there be any cases where an LEA isn't aware that their student gets meals from the neighboring school or district, or would they always know it because they have to send them?
Well, I would think the school would know if their kids are leaving the site to go get meals. I think it's something generally it's a formal thing because another school site's not going to just let random kids come and get meals, right? So it's generally a formalized agreement of some sort, so they should know.
We're almost done, folks. Question 3 from Nancy. Will the initial deadline and end of year only require LEA approval as well? I know that is a long way off, but I put that info into our CALPADS website for the year. And I've also submitted a submittal management cheat sheet for newbies and would like to include it. That's correct. So for the initial deadline for end of year, it is also only LA approval required. Question 2 from Suan. Has CALPADS come across a triple mid yet? I remember one in the past. Is the current system able to handle it? That's a good question. I don't think I've ever seen a triple mid.
I don't know that I have in new CALPADS either. I had seen that before in Legacy and in DataGuide, but I don't think I've seen one current CALPADS.
Rebecca says, for participants that submit CRDC data, have you received any information for this year's data collection from the U.S. Department of Ed? So that's just a question out to everyone attending. Question 2 from Elizabeth. Dual immersion, self-contained, so only one course. If 70% of the day is in Spanish, then it is okay to designate this as a Spanish language with a valid BCLAD BASP.
Yeah, if the teacher teaching the course is providing instruction in Spanish, then mark the language of instruction as Spanish. And then if they have a BCLAD, it should be appropriately assigned.
Rebecca from Morales says, thank you, CDE, CSIS, CALPADS, SPED team. Have a great week. Melissa answered to Rebecca, I have not received any CRDC info yet. And Suan has the last word. Good luck on the update tonight. Fingers crossed. And thanks, Suan. And with that, that's the end of the meeting. There's Nancy just posted a submittal management cheat sheet. So there's that for you. And other than that, that is the end of the Q&A. We went over a little bit, so hopefully we answered all your questions for you. And if not, you submit a ticket. We will be back again next week at 3 o'clock. Wednesdays, we are not doing the Monday ones anymore. So thanks for attending, everyone. And thanks for everyone that helped out today, especially CDE and all the rest of the folks. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bye, guys.